First, Mr. Trump's opponents couldn't find anything on President Trump, and so trying to get some dirt on a political opponent during the Obama administration, they used what's been called the dodgy dossier as a part of an application for a FISA warrant, Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Authorization warrant. Turns out that a lot of the material in the dossier was false, but some FBI agent or other agents had to raise his hand and swear that it was true to the court under a penalty of perjury, knowing that he was perjuring himself. There was indeed on this 76-page application, of which the dossier was part, a footnote saying that the dossier might be a political document. But I think I want to broaden this out rather than the specific issue of what's been going on with Russia. We've listened to this Russia thing for almost a year now, and it's turning out to be virtually nothing. But here's the question I have, especially given the FBI's failure to notice the activities of the shooter in the Florida school shooting and failure to follow their own protocols. If our law enforcement agencies are breaking the law routinely or not following guidelines that they're supposed to follow, what does that communicate to the rest of us about the state of either intelligence or the FBI and or why citizens should try to comply with all of this stuff as well if they're not doing it? Clare Lopez is back with us again. Always good to have her on the program. Vice President for Research and Analysis at the Center for Security Policy, former CIA officer serving domestically and abroad for 20 years with focus on the Soviet Union. Well, the former Soviet Union. It's reflexive, Clare. For 50 years of my life, it was the Soviet Union, right?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Just your assessment now, we're not going to go back into the dodgy dossier issue. We've done that in other interviews. What does this say about the state of our intelligence community right now? And that's probably the NSA, the CIA, the FBI. Looking at it from your experience in that industry, what is this telling us right now?
Well, unfortunately, John, I'm afraid what it's telling us is that our intelligence community, or at least a good part of it, is thoroughly broken. Take the FBI in particular here, because we're looking at multiple failures on its part, not just the recent shooter, but also, you go back to April of 2013 when the Boston Marathon was attacked by two brothers, the Tsarnaev brothers, and the Russians had warned the FBI repeatedly about the older brother Tamerlane Tsarnaev, about him having been the previous year to that in 2012 over in Makhachkala, Dagestan, the capital of Dagestan in the Caucasus, in the company of jihadis, in jihadi mosques. But the FBI doesn't know what jihad is because that information, that training has been denied to them at least since 9/11, and so they ignored the warnings, and we had the Boston Marathon bombing. You look at a Nidal Hasan, the Army officer who shot up his own comrades in Fort Hood, Texas. And the FBI likewise was warned about him, that he was in direct communication with Anwar al-Awlaki, an al-Qaeda operative who happened also to be a cleric, an Islamic cleric. And on that basis, the FBI, once again clueless, no understanding of what Islam, jihad, or Sharia are all about, dismissed those warnings and said, oh, well, he's just communicating on religious matters. So, time and time and time again, there have been warnings, and we're talking here specifically about the FBI, but with disastrous consequences for American lives.
No, you can see that. Now, let me ask a question. Is this just what bureaucracies tend to do? Is that what we're seeing here? And they circle the wagons, they go through the motions every day and keep themselves in existence? Or B, do we have a worldview collision here where they really don't think it's that important but just give lip service to it? If that question makes any sense, I hope it does.
Yeah, it does. As I alluded to there a minute ago, our intelligence community, as well as all senior levels of U.S. national security, and that includes other cabinet departments like Department of Homeland Security, Department of State, Department of Justice, methodically have been denied training. It has been forbidden to train those members of the intelligence community, all of those are, on matters relating to the Islamic component, the Islamic doctrine, law, and scripture inspiration of Islamic terrorism. Forbidden to teach them, forbidden to train them. This began a long time ago, really finished off with the input of Muslim Brotherhood advisors to the intelligence community under Barack Obama administration, in particular the years 2011 till 2012. And so you've got an intelligence community that for at least the last 16, 17 years, at least 10 years, probably quite a bit more, have not had the training they need to recognize warning signals when they're given to them on a silver platter. That is not an error. That's not a mistake. That was done deliberately. Our intelligence communities are completely penetrated by the Muslim Brotherhood. Now, that is not just to say the Muslim Brotherhood. They're also penetrated on other fronts. For example, the Iran lobby, those influence operators, agents of influence operating on behalf of the Tehran regime that did so much to allow Iran to go nuclear and to make sure that the nuclear deal concluded in July of 2015 went through. And we find out that people associated, openly, easily identifiable as either Muslim Brotherhood or Iran lobby affiliates, associates, are inside of our intelligence community at the FBI, or the FBI goes out to them, to Muslim Brotherhood mosques like FBI Assistant Director, who went out to Director Paul Abate, who went out to the Dar al-Hijra Mosque about a year ago in January of 2017 to ensure one of the jihadi imams there, Johari Abdul Malik, that everything was good. We didn't have any suspicions about this jihadi mosque, its jihadi imams, its jihadi training, its jihadi teaching, or its record of having jihadis attend and pray at that mosque. This is what I'm talking about. Or you have Iran lobby people, known agents of influence of the Tehran regime, like Trita Parsi, who heads up something called NIAC, N-I-A-C, National Iranian American Council.
Yeah, I actually get her regular emails, believe it or not, so I can read and see what she's saying.
Yeah, consider the Iran lobby in America lecturing out at Langley. This is what I'm talking about.
This doesn't lend me to give a lot of confidence to the fact we're being protected. You know, had an extended family member in San Bernardino notice something very irregular and called it into the see something, say something people. And they said, oh, yeah, we're watching those guys. And I said, well, to my family member, well, yeah, they were watching the two guys who shot up your community center, too, but that didn't seem to do much.
It's not only a matter of watching. For example, after the Boston Marathon bombing and the knowledge that became public that the Tsarnaev brothers, Johar and Tamerlane, attended the Islamic Society of Boston mosques affiliated with the Islamic Society of Boston. And in Congress, in one of the open hearings, then Director Mueller, now Special Prosecutor or Special Counsel Mueller, was asked directly, well, did you know about this mosque? Were you watching this? Oh, yes, he said, we were watching it. We conduct outreach there. So it's not just a matter of are you watching it, but do you know what you're looking at when you see it?
When you're in this type of work, you know a lot of it's classified, Claire. That means that a lot of stuff can be buried under the term classified when in reality it shouldn't be, and they just put it there to keep it from being exposed.
Well, we remain very hopeful that the Trump administration is going to open up maybe even a little door in the wall they've already built, by the way. It's around the White House. And let some good briefers come back in and help them to understand what this is all about. I mean, for example, in that great purge that I referenced, the worst part of it, 2011 till 2012, when then Director Mueller cleansed, just hosed out the FBI of all accurate training about Islam, Jihad, and Sharia, trainers were also separated from any training role, banned from any training role. It wasn't just the courses or the PowerPoints. It was the trainers that went with them, and we're hoping that the Trump administration at some point will realize that they need to get those trainers like John Glendolo at Understanding the Threat, understandingthethreat.com, if you'd like to see the kind of training that he and the team there provide. But let them back in. Let Steve Coughlin, this country's #1 expert on Islamic law, back in to train and teach. Robert Spencer, superb, excellent expert on Islam and Islamic law. Get these people back in. There needs to be really just a massive educational effort across the U.S. government, intelligence community foremost, or the bad guys are going to continue to mop the floor with us.
And the other problem that we're seeing here, and I'm sure this is just going to grow as we go forward, and that is the use of intelligence community to go after a political opponent, which I'm not sure if that's a first in the history of our country. I mean, J. Edgar Hoover used to keep little blackmail files on everybody. That's how he ensured his own security. But FISA was only supposed to be used for foreign intelligence surveillance, and look at how it got used.
Yeah, this is a very serious situation we're in right now where the most senior levels of organizations, agencies within the intelligence community, including the FBI, the Department of Justice, it looks like probably the CIA as well, National Security Council had to be in on it, the White House, the Obama White House, the Clinton State Department, weaponized. Literally, it looks like they weaponized the most powerful tools of the U.S. government to be turned against fellow citizens. Citizens not accused or under suspicion of actually breaking the law in any way, but rather political opponents in a presidential campaign.
All right, Clare Lopez, Vice President for Research and Analysis at the Center for Security Policy, and their website is centerforsecuritypolicy.org. I do appreciate it, Clare.
Thank you for having me.